Hello and welcome back to another rare PC game review. First and foremost, I'd like to express my disdain for Capcom for skipping Nintendo platforms on a sequel to a spin-off that got its start on a Nintendo platform. I mean, not only is the game not graphically outside the power of the Wii U, but seriously, just seriously, even if it sells the least, it's called integrity. Resident Evil Revelations 2 is a spin-off budget entry released in 4 episodes, but I simply purchased the complete season. While not directly a sequel to Revelations, is this spin-off a worthy follow-up to the first Revelations? More important though, is this more Resident Evil than third-person shooter?
You owe me a pair of underpants!
If you're a fan of Resident Evil or played any Resident Evil since the 4th entry onward, very little of the mechanics I am about to explain will be new. It's over the shoulder, you shoot, melee as much as possible to save ammo, and try not to die. The primary difference between this and older Resident Evil entries is the ability to evade at any time, and may be the most modern thing about the core gameplay. Additionally, the return of less than optimal amounts of ammo laying around is welcome, forcing you to pick your shots. Fortunately, this isn't such a hard thing to do with a mouse and keyboard. And then there's the use of your partner. You'll swap characters to progress through many simple areas, and it quite honestly gets to be a bit tedious at times. It works when it provides the right kind of mechanic, like when you have to shoot an invisible enemy. But most of the time, you switch just to search for ammo and jewels, or see through walls. You'll most likely spend your time using the character with the guns. Speaking of which, weaponry can be upgraded per the usual. Then, on the topic of upgrades, there are skill upgrades that can make or break your ease of play. Last but not least, if you were expecting a lot of scares, don't. It's rarely on the level of horror more so than tension, and it would be simply best if you just didn't waste ammo. The game's climactic moments almost all involve shooting. All said and done, gameplay isn't this game's strong suit, but then again, it never really has been. Oh yeah, and Metal Gear Barry. I would bet you're most concerned with this part. I purchased the complete season at $25, which included the 4 main episodes, 2 extra side missions, and some other things I couldn't care less about. Here's the thing, Barry's side of the story initially relies heavily on backtracking. Fortunately though, there are other areas that you explore later. However, there's no denying the real estate on display here does not match up to just about any other Resident Evil game, including the previous Revelations. But then, in some sort of redemption, raid mode. You think this mode is dumb, but once you play it, you realize how deep it is. Even though I haven't spent a whole lot of time on it, online will be added next week and I will most likely return to it. It's that surprisingly well designed and will add hours upon hours of play. Aside from being nothing the Wii U couldn't do, maxing out the graphics settings doesn't result in anything close to resembling current generation standards, let alone PC ones. This is an ugly game, and low-poly character models with poor lip-sync animation really show off the budget. It's a bit of an eyesore coming from a main Resident Evil entry, especially 5, where motion capture took a steep improvement. While most of the game is masked by its low lighting, don't walk into this expecting anything out of appearances. Even the CG cinematics feel dated and stiff by comparison. It all just feels several generations old. Good thing the story has its moments, and while it doesn't quite set any standards for budget storytelling, it gets the job done, and the best dynamic is unquestionably Barry and Natalia. Just don't forget your comfort brick. This is a rough one. It felt old and classic, and did bring back with it some of those mechanics, namely lower ammo count and tight corridors. However, it falters in what feels like a backstep of the secondary character mechanic that has actually become a staple in recent Resident Evil entries. Furthermore, while it gets the content right for the price through the addition of an extensive raid mode, it also sets a pretty low bar for presentation in a generation almost entirely driven by appearances. When the hottest topic of the generation is graphics, that's really the last thing you want to mess up, let alone make it feel worse than last generation. I give Resident Evil Revelations 2 a 7.5 out of 10. I shake my head at you, Capcom, for skipping Nintendo platforms. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you on my next PC game review.